I did make some progress on the 1968 Datsun 520 restoration this week, but it didn't come easy. We got some bad parts and I made some stupid mistakes. Stay tuned and join me in my misery. I am the one and only infamous Kentucky Yankee without a doubt. Alright, finally getting around to putting this differential together. I think I have the right seals. I'm almost positive I have the right seals. I did check them, unless I checked something wrong. You like nice clean parts, organized well, primed, etching primed shims. This is how you put stuff together. Everything needs to be very clean, neat, organized. You don't want a mess. You don't want a bunch of dirt. It's been so long I lost the video on replacing this pinion seal. But I want to explain how to do it because it's important. There's a crush sleeve inside of here. So what that does is there's a bearing on both sides and you squeeze it together until it gets to a certain point and then you stop. And this should be nice and smooth when you do it. There's specifications on that, how much preload the bearings need. In this case, I'm just replacing the seal. So what I'll do is replace the seal, put this back on. I'll take a zip gun, usually a weak zip gun, not a real high-powered one, and I'll zip the nut on down. When the nut's bottomed out, and this is important, you'll feel it, you'll know when it's finally bottomed out, then usually I just take the zip gun and go ta-ta-ta, that's it, and stop. As soon as it's bottomed out, if it gets a couple rounds with the zip gun, that's it, just stop. Because you don't want to crush that crush sleeve anymore. If you do, it'll put more preload on those bearings and it'll ruin them. They'll be too tight. The way you'll know if you have over tightened it is when you go to turn this right here. See, this is nice and smooth right now. And I can feel it's nice and smooth. If it's too tight, it'll go like this. You'll feel it. It'll go click, 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 click. So check and make sure it's smooth, and I'm sure you'll be all right. There's other ways to do it. Some people count the threads or put marks on there or things like that, but that's how I do it. Sort through my seal pile here and find the right ones. Here's the 4 we need right here. So 4 out of 10, that's not bad, is it? We'll put these seals in first. These seals hold the gear oil inside of this axle. That's important to know because when we get to the next step, there's more to the story. It has this washer and the beveled side goes in. Now our seal. A little grease on the seal. The other side, bevel in. Little grease. Now to prepare the backing plate, we'll drive this seal in. Just a little grease. Oil would be better. Some grease is, I don't know, abrasive a little bit. I don't want to get into all that today. Flip her over. A little rust prevention here. Nice tight fit on this. Had to get on the floor to finish her out. I've got to pack these wheel bearings. Look right here in this spot. See that there? Now watch, I'll try and do this right here. Watch this spot right here. Try and do this on camera for you. Turn it that way. Having to watch what I'm doing. And do you see that grease coming through there? See that? See how it's being forced through? That's how you know you've got enough grease in there. Let me do it a little bit more for you, just so you guys can see. See how it's starting to come through them bearings? That's how you know you got enough grease in there. And they make tools to do this, but I'm not getting that out for this. I can't change the camera angle because I got so much grease on my hand, but next, we'll make sure it's got plenty of grease on here. The race too, I always coat the race good. This little piece will go onto the axle now. Now our backing plate. Bearing, I'm gonna attempt to tap it on. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's not gonna be a problem. When it bottoms out, you can hear the nozzle change. Our axle feels just a little tight for some reason. Not terrible, but a little bit. Here's our lock. And our nut. Now wait a minute. That must be backwards because it's beveled and it needs to fit in that bevel, so. I'm gonna bend one of these tabs up now to lock it in place. It's on the back side, you'll just have to trust me that I did it. These are the shims for the left axle, quite a few of them. I'm not positive I got the right amount, so I'm gonna check it after we bolt it in there. One thing I was wanting to mention before we move on, and I was telling you when I put this first seal in that the gear oil is held in this housing, and then the bearing here, as you saw, I greased it all up and put it in here. Modern rear end differentials are not made that way. The way they're made is there's just a seal out here on the very end, and you just put gear oil in it. There's no grease on a bearing like this. And to me, the newer design is better because it's always going to have fresh, or it's always going to have a lot of fluid going through it, where this, eventually you're going to have to take this back apart and grease those bearings again. I said we would check our shims to make sure we had the right amount in, and the way you do that is there's a dial indicator right here mounted to the housing, and we will check the play of the axle in and out. It should be, the specs are like 12 thousandths to 35 thousandths. Let's see here, it's, yeah, 12 to 35. So all you have to do is move it in and out like that. I've already zeroed it right there, and it's showing, we're over 12, just barely about. No, I shouldn't say that, more than that. I don't have it zeroed out good. There you go. Let me show you. The camera's not showing through the glass, I'm pretty sure, but we're about 14 thousandths clearance there. Well, not clearance, play. I don't know what you call this, slack. Anytime you're putting anything together, really, but especially something like this, make sure it's smooth. Make sure everything's running nice and smooth. See that? Nice and slick and smooth. It's not binding or jumping or popping. The noise you're hearing is the spider gears inside the differential. One thing I noticed, and I noticed it on the other axle, and I kind of messed around with it a little bit. This is a little tight when you first tighten up this and get that bearing in there. But what happens is, when you bolt it up on the axle, it loosens it right up. Everything must be not perfectly straight right now, would be my guess, and when you bolt it, it straightens everything out. It's not real tight, but it's a little tight. Another pile of shims for this side. We'll put it on there and see what it looks like. Now we'll check this side, and this is just the second axle. Doesn't matter what order you do it in, and the specs for this side is 8 to 59 thousandths or 58 thousandths, I'm not sure. And we've got about 25, so that's good. Well within specs, both sides. If they weren't in specs, all you have to do is add or remove shims and get them in spec. I'm using some really high dollar grease too for these bearings and the front end because the parts are so old, they're hard to replace. I like for them to last as long as possible. I was going to have these drums turned, but then I got to thinking about it. Why will I cut that material off if they're still possibly good and round and fine? I shouldn't, so I'm going to sand them off and put them on and we'll try them. If they're warped, then we'll turn them. Isn't that crazy? These drums don't fit up here. They must fit the back axles, I hope. I thought they'd be the same lug pattern. Wait a minute. They do too. I'm wrong. So what's going on? Must have them twisted. Something's being crazy here. I don't know if the drum's not getting on all the way or if it's because these wheels are not actually the ones that are supposed to be on it. These studs are too short now, I think, because these wheels are not the original one to this truck. I've got to share how stupid I am with you. What happened was these bolts were long and I forgot to cut them off in the back. So they're just pushing up against the drum. And that's why things aren't working out. How silly of me. See what I mean? Isn't that funny? Silly Benny. I want to show you guys something. This is supposedly a brand new bushing. Can you hear it? You could probably even hear it. Crunchy. Look at that. Supposedly a brand new bushing. Does that look new to you? It's possible. It'd have to be really old to be doing that, and I mean really old. Look at that. Is that not pathetic? How old is that? And sell it as a new part, or is this new old stock, or I'm not sure what's going on here, but it's no good, obviously. Maybe it was new old stock and maybe it's no good, but I'll tell you why I don't believe that. Because look, this is an old bushing out of the truck that's been in there for who knows how long, 50 years or whatever. And it is still like new, basically. The only part that's been affected is right here that got the weather, you know. This is actually perfect. The reason why is because they say old rubber is actually better. Newer rubber has more synthetic materials in it, and that's why it breaks and falls apart so quick. Our first set of springs going on, possibly, hopefully. So, looks like we'll put this, no, wrong one. Two smaller bushings right here. 1, 2. Our shackle. 2 big bushings fit here. And now, on this back side, this bracket will go right here. 2 lock washers, and I'm using the old ones because I believe they're still good, and I like that. I like the old ones anyways. Not going to tighten it up just yet. I'm going to put the front bolt in first. This will go on here first, U-bolts, and I put grease on the threads of these U-bolts. If you remember when we took them off, I'm doing this wrong. Hold on a second. Let me think about this a minute. There we go, like that. You remember when we took these off, how they were galded and froze up, so I put grease on the thread so that wouldn't happen again. This will go on here like so. I've got to crawl under here because I want to tighten these all nice and even. Becoming a little frustrated, brand new shocks right out of the box. Why are they all oily like this? Perhaps they're junk? I dried them off and pumped them up a little bit. I'm just hoping they seem okay. I'm just hoping maybe the seal's getting a little oil on them, getting wet. They'll be all right, but we'll see. They're easy enough to change later if I have to, but for now, I'm gonna go ahead and throw them on there. Washer, lock, washer, nut. These old shocks have a lock nut that goes on top of them. Pretty cool. And that's all it takes. And that's it. That was shockingly easy. I just noticed something and I went outside to see what the deal is. I didn't notice before there's a bigger triangle here than in the front. So it can go on either way, but which way does it go on? It goes just like that with the smaller triangle in the front, and I lucked out. I didn't know. The other side is already done that way, so I just got lucky. The reason for this little piece here is to hold the U-joints in place. They have a lip on both sides, but also for this bump stop that fits under here. And when you load this truck up, if it's real heavy, this will assist in hauling the load. This truck in 1968 was advertised to hold 2,200 pounds, which is over a ton in the truck bed. Again, that was shockingly easy, so if these do have to be replaced later, it won't be a big deal. Making progress, but just like any other big project, the further you get into it, the slower it seems to go. But we're getting there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.